All right. Well, good morning and welcome to chapel this morning. Good to have you here as we're kind of getting into Thursday during our homecoming week. Just a fun week for us as a school here, kind of the middle of winter, just to have some fun school spirits, some different activities, fun dress-up days. So it's just great to see you guys participate and just enjoy each other as a school community, enjoy each other as different grade levels. But it's nice, too, during this homecoming week just to have some different chapels as well. On Tuesday, we got to hear from Greg Kuiper and just hear about the work that he's been doing in medical missions. And we're excited to have some different panelists up here as well that are some Unity alumni from some different years, just to share about their experience. Because as we think about Unity and just how God has been faithful to you guys as students while you've been here, we also just want to remember that God's been faithful to just the school community for a lot of different generations as well, and we just want to celebrate that and just hear how God has used different people and how He's shaped their stories over different years since they've been students here. So we'll just dive in here, and we'll kind of just go down the row here to start. And we just want you to kind of introduce yourself to the crowd. Who are you? Maybe what year did you graduate from Unity? And then maybe a little brief bio of, where has life taken you since you've graduated? What's happened in your life since you've been a student at Unity?
You want to start with me?
Sure.
My name is Fred Van Scapen. I live here in Orange City. I graduated in 1974. That's ancient history to everybody in this room. I grew up on a dairy farm near Ireton, but most of my time after that was spent driving a feed truck or working for a couple of farmers in the area until I got so sick of farming that I decided I needed to do something else. But in the middle of that, I learned to fly, and my world opened up big time after that. So I learned to fly and then decided college was probably a better experience, so I decided college would be the thing to do. So age 26, I started college. And I continued to add my flight knowledge, and I spent 30 years in aviation flying corporate executives and capped off my career as an airline pilot. Today I've come full circle. I'm driving truck again and driving tractor for a farmer, just as fun thing to do.
Awesome. And Kay?
I'm Kay Joyner. I graduated in 1991. Pals was my maiden name. After I graduated from Unity, I went to Northwestern College, and then I went to graduate school at the University of Iowa. I earned a master's in exercise physiology, and then went back for another master's in physical therapy. I practiced physical therapy in a hospital in Sioux City, and also outpatient in Sheldon. While I was in Iowa City, I met my husband Jeff, who was in dental school, and we got married, and after a brief time in Sioux City, relocated here in Orange City. We have twin daughters who are now seniors in college. Currently, I'm more involved in volunteer work. I haven't worked as a physical therapist since our kids were born. So, I occupy my time helping out in the community, church, and at schools.
Yeah, thanks for having us here today, Jake. Wish you'd have told us it was Neon Day so we could have wore our neon. But, Greg Van Dyke. I am a 1998 graduate of Unity Christian. And after I graduated from here, went on to Dordt University and ran track and cross country there. And I studied history education, thought I was going to be a teacher. Didn't end up teaching anywhere, but have been working in the educational world since. I have worked at Dordt since 2004, started off as an admissions counselor, and then I coached cross country and track there for 13 years. I was actually Mr. Bima's coach, recruited Jake and coached him for a number of years, and then now serve as vice president for enrollment. And I have a daughter who is a senior here, Jada, and then an 8th grader, Poppy, who is at Sioux Center Christian and married to Laura Lynn, who is also a Unity grad.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing a little bit about kind of where life has taken you and the different experiences that you've had since high school. if you think back to kind of that time when you were in high school, what were some of the different things that you were involved with? I know some of you alluded to that a little bit, but what were some of those activities or events or things that you involved yourself with while you were a high school student?
Well, quite frankly, I wasn't a very good student. I didn't want to be here. But I goofed off as much as I could without getting expelled. But the things I did enjoy were working with things that were practical, like I was involved with Rocket Club. I don't know if anybody remembers Rocket Club, but we had a Rocket Club. And then I enjoyed working on cars with friends, anything mechanical. It was something I enjoyed doing. Things that were highlights for my high school career, I guess the highlight for me was 1974 was when the boys took the state basketball tournament. First time they ever went to state, and they won. So you got some legends in the community that are still around that were part of that team. Homecoming, decorating walls, competing for winning for the hall. Junior senior banquet, knights in white satin, decorated for that. And then sadly we had a tragic 2 deaths in our school during that time when I was in high school. Two people died independent of each other, and one was on homecoming. And that was a really sad game, really sad. It affected the whole school, it really did. It was an automobile accident that killed one of our students, and it was tragic. I didn't know about it until I got to the homecoming game. And imagine being an administrator of a school and have to decide, what do I do with this game when I've had a tragedy like that? So that's very memorable to me.
I did a lot of different things when I was in high school. I was part of the band, I was on student council, I think I was a class officer, but most of my stuff was with athletics. I was part of the cross-country team for 3 years, and we were privileged to place 3rd, 2nd, and 1st my sophomore, junior, and senior year at state, so that was fun to be part of. Volleyball, I was part of that team as well. That was in a different era again, that you could do a lot of those things and double up. My junior year, we were 2nd at state. My senior year, we won the state championship. So that was kind of a momentous fall for me with two opportunities to compete at state at that level. I also ran track. My senior year, I did win the 3,000 meter run there too, so that was a big part of my life, athletics and just the memories of the team, and just the life lessons that came along with that. I was also in softball, briefly in basketball, so yeah, I kind of touched on a lot of different things. While at Unity.
Yeah, I was very similar to you, involved with cross-country and track during my time here. Wasn't quite as successful at it as you were, but yeah, I remember our senior year, our cross-country team, we lost state by 4 points, and so I'll never forget that. I think actually some of your dads were on the team with me, so that was fun. Just, yeah, I loved being with teammates and just you kind of remember the races, but more importantly, you remember the relationships that you form, and that's what I loved about cross country. Was we had some people who were running at the state level and other people who just ran because they loved running and wanted to be a part of a team, or maybe they didn't even love running, they just wanted to be with teammates, and so that was a lot of fun to be part of. Living group leader for a couple of years, so that was, yeah, just a great experience to get to know as a junior or senior, getting to know underclassmen. We also had a death during our time, one of my close friends actually, and yeah, impacted our class a lot, but also brought us closer together as well. And yeah, in those hard times, like, who are you relying on? Are you relying on yourself, or are you relying on Christ? And so that was very impactful for us.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. It sounds like from each of your experiences, there were definitely highs and lots of exciting things that happened, but also some lows and some things that had major impacts and ripple effects on the school, the community as well, and kind of bonded you guys together. But also, as you mentioned too, Greg, just kind of reflecting on, okay, where do we put our faith? Where do we put our trust? And where do we put our hope as well? Thinking back to high school, maybe this time I'll start with you, Greg. Were there any special traditions or maybe any unique events that Unity had that you remember from your time in high school?
Yeah, seeing the events that you guys participate in now, I would say a lot of them are fairly similar or adjacent to what we did when we were in school. One big thing that was very popular when we were students was cruise night. And so you would hop in a friend's vehicle, and the most popular one is probably Sioux Center, and you'd cruise up and down Highway 75 on Sunday night for like 2 hours. And I remember one of my good friends had a black Beretta with green lights underneath it, and we just thought that was really, really cool. And he had, of course, subs in his trunk, so the music would blare. And actually, his son is a senior. I won't name him right now, but he might have subs in his trunk as well. So, but other things, just hanging out at break time. I remember, there was always donuts every break, and so it was a rush to the donut line, which probably wasn't great as a cross-country runner, but they were delicious. So I think donuts were a quarter, so that was a lot of fun. This space right here did not exist. This was the Unity U, so it was a driveway through here, and then at break time we'd come hang out in the grass area, and a group of us guys liked to play hacky sack, and we changed it into killer hacky sack, so like on the third touch you could grab the ball and then chuck it at somebody. So I don't know, just random things with friends. I think, we spent a lot of time hanging out at friends' houses, playing games. One difference that I see between now and back when I was in high school was like we'd have groups of like 20 people of guys and girls just hanging out. And I would love to see more of that with high schoolers, of hanging out with a group of guys and girls together. Don't need to be dating, just hanging out as friends and just having a great time with each other.
Awesome. Kay, what about you? Anything unique or different from when you were a high school student?
Yeah, just reflecting on the different politically correctness. I don't know how else to say that, but my class was actually the last class that was initiated as freshmen as part of Slave Day. So, that was a tradition that probably was a good thing that they ended it. But what happened was the seniors would go through the freshman class list, and it was like a big deal to pick out their slave for the day. And they got to dress us up however they wanted to. So I remember I was a California raisin from the cereal box, and our talent show was we had to go on stage and like jump into a cereal box as a raisin. But after that, I guess there must have been some other issues going on behind the scenes. So I think that has now evolved into a freshman senior breakfast, which probably is a really good thing. But my class was the last one to experience that, so that's kind of a fun fact about my class.
Yeah, I wasn't involved in a lot of stuff in school, but I do remember that the cruise night was always a big deal for me, because muscle cars were big when I was in high school. If you could have a car that made a lot of noise, had a lot of horsepower, and wide tires, that was a big deal. And we would cruise up and down the streets doing that, showing off our cars. And I remember when this was still the U, and I came to school one day and I took off and splashed some gravel up against the front door. Mr. Mansolan was principal then, and he confronted me the next day and said, "That's the last time you're taking your car to school for that reason." So he had some pretty strict rules. What else happened? I remember we had dress-up day or dress-up week every week. One week a year we could dress up as anything goofy, and some guys dressed up like Elvis Presley or put on these huge mirror sunglasses or grease their hair back like Elvis used to do. It was really goofy stuff you put on. It was good or bad, but that was a fun thing we did.
Awesome. So thinking back to kind of the context of when you were in high school, just different times, historically, politically, socially, culturally, what do you remember, were there any major things that happened while you were a high school student, culturally, politically, historically, anything like that?
Yeah, hippie movement was big when I was in high school. Most of you probably don't remember that, but it was loud shirts, flowered pants, bell-bottom pants, and really long hair. I mean, men wore hair down to their shoulders. And Vietnam was in full swing. That was a hot topic politically because there were a lot of campus riots trying to end the war. Richard Nixon was president at the time, and he unfortunately got embroiled in Watergate, which ended his career as president. And about that same time, Vietnam ended, but I remember there were a lot of POWs that were in the news, and one thing I remember was they published names of POWs, and you could buy a bracelet with that POW's name on, and you promised to wear that bracelet till that POW came home. So I'm sure there are some that never came home. I have no idea what happened to the people that wore whether those bracelets ever came off, but I remember seeing the name of the one that I had, and I eventually was able to take that bracelet off. But it was our way of protesting what was going on, good, bad, or otherwise. That was what was happening politically when I was in high school.
Okay, anything that you remember from your time as a student?
Yeah, culturally, I remember that was the era that the movie Pretty Woman came out. I don't know if anyone is Julia Roberts, so that was kind of her starting point. I remember like Amy Grant and Michael W. Smith were just getting to be big in the Christian music scene. Historical events. We learned things way differently than you do now. It wasn't like instant news all the time on CNN or CNBC or whatever, wherever you get your news from. I remember when I was in high school, it was the fall of the Berlin Wall, which was a huge thing, and the end of the Cold War, and also the Chinese students protesting in Tiananmen Square. And these events, what they would do for us in school, we had these huge TVs, like boxes, on carts. So they'd wheel in these carts into a classroom, and I remember watching Tiananmen Square on a big TV in the classroom. And just thinking back, that really shaped what the world looks like today. When I learned the countries of Europe and Asia as an elementary student, and then these political events happened in high school, the countries totally changed, the map totally changed. So that was huge and still is huge. And kind of another fun fact was the Berlin Wall that I was talking about. I had the opportunity to see a piece of that this past summer. It was on display in Montreal, Canada. And just to see the eastern side was just gray, just a gray part of the wall, whereas the western side had all kinds of graffiti and words and different things on it. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting way to take me back to what I remember about when that wall actually fell.
Yeah, during the mid-'90s was the rise of something called the internet. So that was pretty big, except for Wi-Fi wasn't a thing. I know students, when you go places, you're like, oh, I need to connect to the Wi-Fi. Yeah, there was no Wi-Fi. You had to hardline plug into the wall in order to get a connection. So companies like Google and Amazon were started. So Amazon came out that they actually sold books. That's how they started. And wish I would have invested in them in the mid-'90s. That would have been a good choice. 9/11 was shortly after I graduated, so that was probably the biggest political world event that happened when I was about high school age. And so, yeah, I still remember exactly where I was at when I heard the news and just the following discussions. And so, yeah, big world events like the Berlin Wall coming down and things like that have shaped the way the world is now.
So thinking back to high school, was there maybe a teacher or a class or someone that you really enjoyed while you were a student? And maybe what made that teacher special, or why did you really like that person's class? So I'll start with you, Greg, and kind of come down this way.
Yeah, it was hard to choose just one because, I just really appreciated the teachers when I was here, and all of them, and they all pushed me in different ways, and sometimes you don't appreciate that when you're a student, but then when you graduate and look back, it's like, oh, wow, that's why they were pushing me in that direction. And so students, appreciate your teachers because they do know what they're doing. I was Mr. Beimers and Mr. Igneris were the two history teachers that made a big impact on me and influenced my college decision to major in history and education, even though I never ended up teaching it. But that was significant. And then Mr. Miedema was my cross-country coach, and he also taught Bible and a few other things, and he was just a great mentor during my time here. And still see him around and always appreciate catching up.
What about you, Kay? Anybody of note or anyone that really stands out from a teacher standpoint when you were here?
Again, I had a hard time just narrowing it down to one or two. And two, as I get farther away from high school, I think I appreciate my teachers a lot more and see how much they did invest in me. So one that does stand out is Larry Willinga, and he taught a class, he taught religion classes, and he had one that was called Perspectives. It might have been Perspectives in Christian Life, or I don't know what the rest of the title was, but he taught us how to think, how to develop a worldview. We learned about what different religions, different sects, different cults, what they believe, and then compared it and contrasted to what is taught in the Bible. And it wasn't a class that you spit back facts. He made it so that you had to think, and I really appreciate that. And also as part of that, we did a lot of scripture memorizing. And I am so thankful that as a student, I had to memorize scripture because it's much easier when you, quote, have to than when it's optional. And I still have those verses in my head to this day, and I am so grateful for that. And again, at the time, it was just a thing that you had to do to get through the class. But looking back, that definitely was very impactful for me. And like you, my cross-country coach, Mark Kauk, he was a great mentor, and we, continue to be in contact with he and his wife, and are grateful for his influence on my life now, and that we can continue that relationship.
Well, it's been a long time, obviously, but it's hard to pick out one teacher that was really, because they all cared about us deeply. They really did. If we were out of line, they made sure that they stepped in to correct us. But one teacher I think that stands out would be Mr. Andy Miedema. You mentioned Mr. Miedema. It's probably his dad that you mentioned. He was the guidance counselor when I was in high school, and he also taught history and career planning. And I liked his career planning class because he was able to connect with me where I wanted to go, what my plans were for my life, and he encouraged me in those areas. But the other thing about Mr. Miedema was he always had time to listen. And later on in life, maybe just a decade or more ago, I had a chance to visit with him in a restaurant, and he shared with me some of the things that he had to go through as a guidance counselor. Just broke my heart. And this guy cared so much about his students, and that's what really touched me, is he exuded that care for his students.
Well, thanks for sharing just about your experiences, with different staff members, and just how much care that they had for you as students. And I know it doesn't maybe always feel like that when a teacher's asking you about a late assignment or getting something turned in or stuff like that. But I think for you as students, just to hear that there is just deep care and love for you that your teachers do have. And you'll probably reflect on that later, talking about people pushing you in maybe areas that were maybe uncomfortable, but it comes from a place of love and care for you as people. Now that you've had a little time since you've graduated, how have you seen maybe Unity's influence on your life? And we'll start back here with you, Fred.
I think the biggest thing is the Christ-centered culture that was part of it. As I've gotten older and I've gotten more involved in other things in other schools, my grandkids go to different schools. They go to the public school, and the Christ-centered culture is just not there. And it's evident to me. As much as they may say they're Christians, the culture isn't there when you go to events. That's the biggest thing. It's really hard to define that, but that is, I think, the biggest factor that this school still emphasizes the Bible as being the focus of why you're here. Your parents make a sacrifice to send you here. Don't underestimate that sacrifice they make. And when you get to be the age where your parents are, and you have to make those decisions, make sure you choose wisely where you send your students. It's just so important that you get a good foundation. Education is everything, but make sure that the education you get is wholesome, it's biblical, it's Bible knowledge, Bible-based, and push yourself to learn as many things as you can about as much as you can about as many things as you can, assuming they are wholesome, because there are a lot of things out there that are not wholesome. But anything you learn, no matter what it is, can be applied to many other areas of your life. Don't just focus on one thing. Just be open to listen. And the other thing I want to say is present yourself as being willing to learn and willing to listen, and also be professional in what you do. Don't be a slob. Don't be a model for the slobs, because that's going to get you nowhere. Be a professional and dress for success.
Amen to that.
Kay, what about you?
Yeah, I appreciate what you said about having a good foundation from the Bible-based education here at Unity. But taking that a step farther, I think learning how to make that my own, to think Christianly, not just spit back answers. I think that was something that I took away from Unity that is more important than any grade I ever got. To know the why of why I believe what I believe, and to make that my own. And I think Unity gave me some of the tools that helped develop that in me.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of those comments. I'll go a little bit different direction then. I would say that the relationships that you have in high school, don't take yourself so seriously or be so concerned about what other people think about you, because those seem very important and very real right now. But the older you get, those lines or those barriers start breaking down. For me anyway, I know I started seeing that already in college, of like, oh, I didn't hang out or even really talk to that person in high school, and in college you like start getting to know them better, and then you graduate from college and you're going to find yourself going maybe to the same church and being on a church committee with that person, maybe even working with that person, and you maybe didn't give that person the time of day in high school, and later in life you find out like, whoa, we could have been really good friends, and I think that would change a lot of the dynamics in high school if you have that perspective of, hey, who is this person? They're created in the image of God, and how do I get to know them and love them for who they are? I think would make high schools and grade schools a more loving place.
Awesome. Well, thank you to each of you. For time's sake, we'll have to kind of wrap this up, so I'll just say a quick word of prayer, but I appreciate your willingness to share, and just the wisdom that you provided us, and the life lessons that I think our students can take away from this. We'll end with a quick word of prayer, and then you'll be dismissed for break. God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for each of these panelists up here, just sharing about their experiences, sharing the ways that you have shaped each of them individually and as just part of your body of believers. We ask that you'd be with these students and the rest of their day. May they just take the wisdom from this morning and use it in their lives the way that you've planned for them. We thank you. In your name we pray. Amen. Let's give them a round of applause, and you guys are dismissed.